So good morning everybody and welcome to this week's Facebook Live. My name is Deborah Byrne from Deborah Byrne Psychology Services, known across social media as DBpsychology. And this week I'm going to talk about this week's blog, which is a disability, and it is called Dyscalculia, or Dyscalculia some people call it. I just want to say right off the bat, it is a recognised disability. Therefore, it has rights and entitlements under the various education and disability acts that there are in Ireland anyway, and in the UK that I know of, and around the world too. So, what is it? One, it's a hidden disability. It's one of what we call the hidden disabilities, and therefore it isn't something that's so visible that people will see and recognise, and it can cause an awful lot of problems for the people that have it. Now, what is it? It's basically, and this is very basic, a difficulty with understanding maths, but that has further implications, and I'll go into that in a few minutes. How do you get it? For most people, you wouldn't be surprised that they would be born with it. But you can also acquire it, and this is something that people don't realise, that you can acquire dyscalculia from an acquired brain injury. So something like a stroke, dementia, a head trauma, and I've talked about different forms of acquired brain injuries before. So if you go back on that blog, you can actually see that some of those people could in fact acquire dyscalculia. So the symptoms themselves are long, so I'm not going to actually go into the actual symptoms, but they're in the blog. Check them out at www.deborahpsychologyservices.com. What I will do is talk about what somebody, a parent, would see. So what you might see as a parent, or what you might see as a friend, or as an adult, a partner, maybe if your partner has had an acquired brain injury and then they get it, or if your parent has dementia or something like that, or a stroke or something, and then they develop dyscalculia. Some of the things you might see. So they would be using their fingers well beyond childhood. So we've all done it, 1, 2, and then we use our fingers to count. They would be doing that well beyond 7. So they'd be continuing to do this well beyond their peers will be doing it. They'd also be doing the reversing of numbers. So their 2s and 5s in particular would be reversed. So they would, instead of writing them the way you're supposed to write a 5, it would be written the other way around. So, reversal of numbers well beyond, again, the younger child stage. So well beyond the 7. So 7, 8, they should be starting to crack that themselves. They continue to do it 8, 9, and they continue to do it. Recalling the maths, what we're talking about here would be maths learned. So in particular, the times tables, that's an early indication, having great difficulty in learning even the simplest of maths tables. Huge problem for the early young children trying to learn those, the 7 and 8 year olds, when they start to learn the times tables and things like that. It causes a massive amount of problems. Apologies there, something happened. So difficulty in understanding and linking mathematical numbers and symbols. So they would also have difficulty with understanding money and the concepts of money. That would be one, particularly for somebody with dementia, or for some forms of dementia. Time, not being able to tell the time. Keeping scores in games, keeping up with the score in the game. Understanding take a turn in a game. Recognising patterns. So, you've got to think about patterns in all sorts of things we have. So they would have difficulty in recognising patterns. Sense of direction, that's probably one parents would pick up on most. They have a dreadful sense of direction. So they could get lost a lot, and it may not be their fault. So, you've got to make allowances, but you've also got to, particularly with a smaller or younger child, you've got to keep an eye on them, that their sense of direction is just off. And the big one is having school difficulties. There will be problems in school. You'll probably have been called in. The child will be getting very frustrated, particularly around maths, and their self-confidence will be very low. It will have definitely been probably knocked down very low by the time it comes to getting an assessment. It takes time for the school to maybe start to recognise that there is a difficulty, or maybe it would taken time for you to recognise that there is a difficulty, and that therefore during that period of time the child's self-confidence has been knocked. And I'm going to talk about how you can help. And I have talked about it before, how you can build their self-esteem. So I go into the assessment and how the school is supposed to do it. So you do need an assessment. It's usually done by an educational psychologist. You can approach your school, and you should be approaching the school, and they will help you get an assessment. The one thing I'd say to you about dyscalculia, because there is so much emphasis on the literacy side of things, it is one of the hidden disabilities. It's not well known. So do not be surprised if the school hasn't recognised it. Do not be surprised if the teacher doesn't even understand it. You need to understand it. As a parent, you will need to understand it, and you will need to be able to explain it to teachers time and time again, because something like this affects other subjects. Just like a literacy difficulty like dyslexia does, you have to be able to explain it to them. Your child is entitled, after they get assessed, to an individual education plan. The school does that. You are, you should be involved in completing that plan, and they should be able to give you things you can do at home to help your child. In saying that, because the emphasis is put on the literacy side of things much more than it is on this difficulty of mathematical difficulty, getting resource teaching is going to be difficult, and you may have to, in fact you probably will have to get outside tuition. Please make sure that is a qualified tutor that knows what dyscalculia is. An ordinary maths teacher is just not going to do it. They have to have done that extra qualification, outside of their either their primary or their secondary school teaching education. They have to have done this extra course. For parents, please stop feeling guilty because your child has a disability. You're going to find that difficult, and you're going to have to grieve it out. You're going to have to let it go, and you're going to have to go, okay, my child has a disability. We now know where we're at, and we can go from there. It's very important that if you're having difficulty with reconciling the fact that your child has a disability, that you do get some help yourself. Because the last thing you want is for your child to pick up on it, and they will pick up on it no matter how much you think you're hiding it. They will definitely pick up on it. As I said, you're going to need a maths tutor, particularly one with understands dyscalculia. You also need to know your rights and entitlements, because if you don't know them, chances are you'll get left to the side. Unfortunately, this is the world of being a parent with a disability or a disabled child. You have to know your rights and entitlements. The people that are supposed to know it don't necessarily know it. So do get to know your rights and entitlements. And the place to go for that in Ireland would be the Dyslexic Association. They do both dyslexia and dyscalculia. So go and talk to them. The most important things that you can do for your child at this stage, or do for anybody with this disability, is to build their self-esteem. Their self-esteem, as I said at the start, is going to be really badly knocked. So using outside of academia, or taking the pressure off the mathematical side of things, the science side of things, and build up their self-confidence using things that they really love, is one way to do it. Teaching them how to self-advocate, because at one point in the near future, and believe me, it's a blink of an eye. As a parent of adult children, it comes as a blink, in a blink of an eye. Your child will become an adult and they will have to self-advocate for themselves. But at this moment in time, if you have a young child and they have a disability, you're their advocate. But at a later point, they will have to advocate for themselves. So please teach them how to do that. Please teach them in an appropriate way and at the time you feel is best about their disability. So this comes into the fact that, you need to be learning about that disability. These are very important. If they understand what it is, they can correct people that are ignorant. They can correct people that throw out, incorrect facts or belittle them or do anything. If they have come from a very solid foundation of understanding their own disability and their self-esteem has been boosted, and this will then help them advocate at all levels, at all platforms, and stand up to bullies and things like that. I have a lot of ideas that you can use that are very useful. They're on the Dyslexia blog, and I've linked out to it. If you go to this week's blog, you can actually find a link. That blog it's in 3 parts, and I've broken it down into building up their self-esteem, homework ideas, technology is going to be very useful, and other things like that you're getting them organised and things like that, and also looking at the school system and when you have to apply for different things. It's too much information for me to actually do in a Facebook Live because it runs over 3 blogs. So you need to just go and have a look at that, print them off, or get make notes or whatever. And then if you have any questions, just come back to me. Just tag me and I'll come back to you. You can tag me here. You can tag me on Twitter. You can send me a private message. I'm always available for a question and I'll answer you as best I can. And if I don't know the answer, I will try and find somebody who does for you. So I'm going to leave it there for this week, and I will talk to you all next week. And this week's blog is at www.deborahbyrnepsychologyservices.com. I will link it in the replay. And just say hello to Deirdre and Colette as always for being on. And Monday's blog is, I have to think, I think it's about relationships. I'm not sure. I'm actually several blogs ahead. So I think this one could be on relationships. So, but don't hold me to that, okay? But I'll be out on Monday as always, and I'll see you next Saturday. And anyway, as I said, anybody has any questions, please just pop them in the comments below, and I'll talk to you all next Saturday. Thank you all again, and sorry for the interruptions this week, and I'll talk to you all again next Saturday morning. Thank you.